Welcome, horror fans, to HHN365, a Halloween Horror Nights podcast. As always, my name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-host, Duff.
Hey, guys.
How's it going, Duff?
Not bad. How are you doing, Mike?
Hey. All right, for this episode, what are we going to call this? We're going to basically call this our HHN...
This is our HHN30 predictions.
Predictions.
This is the predictions,
Yeah, and
with some different aspects to your normal predictions.
Right. So every week we kind of do some rumors. We do a little bit of predictions. I know we did our way too early predictions
But that was-
back in like October.
Here's the thing. It wasn't just way too early predictions. It was way too early hot takes.
Yeah.
So the point of that wasn't necessarily guessing exactly what we believe would be there, but more like the crazy possibilities.
Right. And it was all a game and it was fun.
Yeah. This is literally what we think will be at HHN30 as of right now.
Right. And we have taken basically everything that has been rumored, any little thing that we've kind of heard people talk about or speculate, and we have added it to a list. And we're going to kind of go over at groups of a time, and we're going to categorize it as things that are likely, things that we think are likely, things that we think are maybes, and things that we think are kind of pie in the sky, not very likely type of thing.
Yep.
And then what our ultimate goal is we're going to build a speculation map.
We are going to build our own speculation map that is like the HHN 365 predictions.
Right.
Not our personal, but us as a team.
As a team,
we'll
we're going to
create
come
that.
together.
Yep.
So we're going to say, oh yeah, we think this might be likely, and it's going to go great in Soundstage 22 or something like that.
So when you see like a speculation map drop with HHN 365 on it, it's not the real speculation map this early. It's us.
It's us.
It's not the real deal that usually has like 8 out of 10 right already.
Yeah, no.
We might have like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, we're building this very early. So, yeah, we're gonna have fun with this. We're gonna basically go. Some of these things are based on rumors or things we've talked about. Some of these things we've never talked about on the show at all. Some
a
of
lot
these
of
things,
it we don't want to talk about on the show, but it's been talked about, so we will.
Yeah.
It's basically just we picked a large number of speculation about HHN30 in general,
Right.
from forums, from social media, from podcasts, everything.
right? And I think we settled on 31 predictions.
Yeah, we have 31, which is one over. We just needed to fit something in, so.
So we have the 31 predictions. How about we start with group 1?
Well, hold on. We got one more part before we get into it.
Yeah.
We talked about our audio last show and how we want to improve
that's right.
that. And we're working on that right now. You might have already been able to tell. You guys have probably, maybe, depending how long you've been listening to us, remember Nico? He's been on a guest on like 3 or 4 shows.
Howdy.
He is kind of producing for us on this first episode with the
Right.
new equipment, kind of monitoring, making sure everything's going
Got to make sure all
as
the
necessary.
levels are right and everything.
Yeah. So you should notice a very large increase in quality of our audio. Thank you, Nico, for assisting with that.
Right.
Yeah, sure. I was tired of listening to all in a cave, so I just want to make sure we get this all right. No, I'm just
We're no
joking.
longer recording on a tin can.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right.
Exactly. And then also,
we upgraded the string. That's right.
you will hear from Nico a little bit later as well. He's going to be out of this next segment. He was just going to be doing the monitoring, but he's going to do some talking later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
well,
we
we
go
can
over
do
the
that.
speculation map when we're building it, he's going to join us and he's going to help us basically come up with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because as you may know, I'm a new haunt boy, so I'm not as well versed in this as y'all are as to other theme park stuff. So it'll be interesting to hear this and see what it comes from my perspective.
Basically, we're kind of going to get we're looking at him as like general public, and how's the reaction to our speculation map kind
And
of.
I have
been a
never
while.
been referred to as general public before. That really hurts.
Yeah, you aren't. That was probably the wrong terminology for you.
It's been a while since we've had him on the show.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's
It's
what
probably
was it,
since
yeah?
like episode 5,
Yeah.
6?
I mean, his.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, if you listen to the Christmas special, he might sound similar to Santa.
Yeah, he's very similar to Santa. But he's
Yeah.
not. It was Santa.
It was
No,
Santa.
It was Santa.
Santa.
we share a similar name, Saint Nick, Nico. I can understand where that
It's
comes
close,
from.
People get you confused.
All right, should we hop
Yeah,
right into it?
let's get into it now.
All right, I jumped the gun. Let's do it. All right, so these groups are totally arbitrary. My first 6 that we're gonna kind of categorize, we have Candyman, Beetlejuice, Academy of Villains moving stages, Halloween Kills, Stranger Things, and having 11 houses.
Okay.
So of these rumors or predictions, things that people are talking about that are going to happen in HHN 30. Let's break down this first group and categorize it. We don't have to do a certain amount. Let's just, if we think they're all likely, we can put them on all likely, but let's take them and discuss them and put them into categories.
Perfect. Let's do it. So let's just kind of take it in order then. You want to start with Candyman?
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're both kind of going to be in the same boat here. We haven't talked about this in advance. If
No, we
you're
have
wondering,
not.
we
No,
have not discussed this with each other at all. But I'm pretty sure we're going to both say this is very likely at this
Yeah,
point.
this is a likely. I would say of all of these are the ones that people are talking about. That's pretty much a set deal. If anything can be a set deal.
Yeah.
This,
I mean, could be wrong. We could be wrong. But it just makes a lot of sense. Jordan Peele kind of having the connection now. This is a production of his.
right.
It's a Universal property. It's a reboot. Is it a reboot? A remake?
Right.
I think it's reboot technically.
Yeah, it's a reboot.
Of old horror film. It just kind of checks a lot of boxes that Universal goes for in houses.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to fit well. I don't know if it has the mass appeal that what they really try to go for an IP, but
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like it's not their Ghostbusters Stranger Thing level IP.
right. I would say most people don't know what Candyman is, but I'm hoping that this new one will put it on the map. And I think Universal is hoping that it will be a big hit. And then if that happens, we'll definitely see it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. What was the next one? Beetlejuice. This is something I think a lot of people want. I don't know if it's very likely between you and me.
I first of all, I'll start off saying I don't want it as a house. I don't think it would make a great house personally.
I think you're in the minority.
I am in the minority on that, I think. I don't think it would work as a scare zone. I don't think it's a great fit for Horror Nights, personally. And I know a lot of people would disagree. But beyond what I personally feel about it, I also don't think it's going to come to Horror Nights, at least right now.
I would say if this wasn't an anniversary year, we could easily see a Beetlejuice house. I think it could. It kind of fits the Ghostbusters role. It's not going to be the marquee thing, but it's definitely going to be one of the marquee things. I think it could easily be kind of in Soundstage 22, like a Ghostbuster, like pretty popular, going to draw a lot of people.
Like the side piece to the feature house. of the year.
Exactly. I do think that with the anniversary year, there's going to be a lot of things going on with, and I mean, we'll get to it, but I don't know if necessarily it's going to need one of those big IP draw or second IP type of thing for it to be successful. So I don't know if we're going to see something like a Ghostbusters this year, but we'll see. I'm going to put it in my personal, I would put it as a maybe, but it sounds like you're leaning towards a more not likely.
Not likely for me.
All right, so how are we going to settle this?
Well, we don't have to settle it now. We're going to settle that
Okay.
when we get to the speculation map. I think we could be on separate spectrums
Okay.
when just going through this
So
list.
let's just put, for now, when we're making this list, let's just put it into the not likely. And we can always move this around.
All right, while he's doing that, we'll start getting to the next one, which is Academy of Villains returning, but not at the Fear Factor stage. I think that's a legit rumor at this point that they've been offered to come back, but not at the Fear Factor stage. So back to a street stage. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Well, I mean, we're solely resting on the fact that this rumor is true. That
Of
being
course.
said, it makes sense. It would make sense that AOV has been in the street stage before. That it makes sense that anniversary year they might have something bigger that they want to put on the Fear Factor stage. Whether it's what we're all hoping for or not, we could see a show that has a higher production value that needs to go into that Fear Factor stage.
Yeah.
So I would say this is probably a likely.
Yeah, I'd agree that that's pretty likely. I'd put it on the likely side as well. I agree that the production quality isn't necessary for Academy of Villains as it would be for like a Bill and Ted or like an anniversary show, an icon show, anything like that. I personally think their best ever performance was at HHN26, right there on the street stage. It's a show that I personally like to be able to just take in, walk up, walk by, not so much sit down, make a whole thing of it.
Right.
I think it's fine in pieces. I think it's nice to stand. I think that kind of adds to the atmosphere. I think people get more into it, and it's a show that's kind of getting the crowd hype, and that gives you an advantage when people are already on their feet.
Right. And it doesn't have to necessarily land on a street stage for this to happen. It could, we forget there are other stages in that park that it could land. There's animal actors, Blues Brothers. There are other stages it could land. Do we count Blues Brothers as a street stage?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's big enough for. I think you can count it as a street stage, not big enough to house AOV.
Probably not.
No, I feel like they'd get hurt on that stage.
Probably. All right. So the next one is Halloween Kills. What do you think about having another Halloween house at HHN?
Personally, I would not want it. We've had a good number of incarnations.
3 in the last how many years?
5.
Yeah.
I think 5. Yeah. And Halloween 4 was not fantastic.
Yeah, that
was 4, right?
Yeah, Halloween 4. That was.
Yeah, it was not great. I'd understand why they'd bring it. I put it personally into the maybe category right now, kind of, but teetering towards likely, just because it has a history of being in Horror Nights. So
I would say it's a maybe with if it's anything's a maybe, it's a high maybe. It's like
I'd say put it in maybe.
Okay.
For me, but it definitely. I say maybe, but it could end up on my speculation map at the same time, kind of deal.
It makes sense. There's a house coming up, or a movie coming up. It makes sense. We've seen it many, many times.
But then also, are we talking about this rumor strictly as Halloween Kills or just the Halloween franchise in general?
I would say Halloween franchise.
Okay.
I think if we get another Halloween,
I think it's possible they don't go right to Kills.
I know the rumor is Kills, but I would say this kind of counts as any Halloween.
I've heard people say Halloween 5 because it makes sense.
Right.
To just keep going.
4,
yeah.
5.
Even as the whole franchise, I'd still say maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right, and then the next one we had in this grouping was Stranger Things.
Ooh, we're gonna be a little skewed on this one, I think.
Well, I don't think we're not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Stranger Things fan. I don't think it's coming back this year. I think they're taking a break. Yeah,
wasn't this on your hot take? Didn't you have Stranger Things returning?
I didn't.
Oh.
That Nico, I believe, had Stranger Things
I see.
returning. But I did not have it on my hot takes. I don't think it's coming back. I think, heck, we don't even have really material unless they pull from season 3 or they do 1, 2, 3. We're not going to have new material by the time this comes around. So I don't know what they would do.
Here's the thing for me. Well, I'm going to say not likely. I also don't want it to come back this year. But I'm going to say not likely because this is a deal that would have been already in place. They would have already known it was coming. If they knew it was coming, they would have done season 2 last year and season 3 this year. They would have saved season 3 because that's the only content they'd have to go off of. So, I mean, just based off that alone, I think it's not happening.
And
it's
it kind of felt
likely.
like they pushed season 3 into
this house. We have to force this in because we're not going to get it.
Right.
So
we have to do this now. And because we're not going to get season 3, and season 3 was so popular, there was so much love for season 3 leading into Halloween Horror Nights. I can see that why they would put it in there. It seemed like it was kind of shoved in.
Oh yeah, it's crazy how much this would kind of change my view on Stranger Things coming this year. If they would have just done season 2, I think it would have been a better house last year.
Right.
And then I'd be excited to see season 3 this year because it's my favorite Stranger Things season 2.
Right.
But in the end, I feel like I was shorted on season 3 last year and just left disappointed with the Stranger Things franchise at Horror Nights.
Do you really think we don't have to go down this, but do you really think the house would have been better if it was just season 2?
Yes.
What would they have done that they didn't already do?
I don't think it would have been necessarily any additions. I think you could have just fleshed things out better.
Right.
You could have so I think one of the reasons we saw so many static scenes is because they had so many of the large grandiose scenes. I think they could have put more into those scenes rather than okay, we got 5 more of these coming up. So
Right. True.
can only put so much investment into each.
All right. Now, the last one in this grouping is 11 houses. This comes from a rumor we've talked about on the show. We think, they have announced that there's going to be 10. Their official announcement when they announced the dates that it was going to be 10 houses, 5 zones. That's what we got in the media blurb. There's a lot of rumors coming out that there is a potential for 11 houses. What do you think, Duff?
At this point, I still lean towards not likely. I don't know. I feel like they would have just thrown it in the announcement if there was going to be 11 rather than say 10 and just kind of we'll change later.
Yeah, I don't know if they really need 11. I don't
think they need 11.
No. With 10, there was already, and last year, the lines were already not too bad. I would think if the lines were crazy and they really needed another house to kind of suck out some of the crowd, I could see them doing 11 if the lines were 3 hours long at all of them last year. I could see how they could maybe try to do some more houses to really cut down on the lines and get the guest experience higher. I don't think 29 necessarily needed that. I don't see them investing the money in building a new house when the lines in the guest experience in 29 was, at least line-wise, was fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that view of it as well. There's one thing that's kind of getting people on board with the 11 house rumor again, and that's so tickets are on sale in the UK for HHN30, and a blurb about HHN30 on there is more houses than ever. I think chances are that they've just been reusing the same stuff for years,
right?
And it's probably said that for years.
I have a feeling that if they were going to do 11 houses, they wouldn't let attractiontickets.com know before the general public.
Yeah, there's no way.
I don't think they have any sort of insider knowledge.
No, not at all.
And
so I don't think that gives any credence to the rumor whatsoever.
Right.
But yeah, so I say not likely, Mike.
I would say maybe, but no, I don't think it's very likely. It could happen, but I think it's on the not likely. It's not as
I think it's
not likely. Some of these things,
it's possible,
but it's
not likely.
Yeah,
to me,
I'm gonna put it not likely.
All right, perfect.
All right,
on the same page.
All right, so we are moving to group 2. In this group, we're gonna be discussing The Conjuring, some sort of a retrospective house, a Scarecrow sequel, a Game of Thrones house or zone, and a Carnival Graveyard scare zone coming back.
I like some of these.
Yeah.
I really like
definitely.
some of these.
And we don't have to discuss them in order. We can hop around. What do you think, Duff? Which one do you want to tackle first?
Let's just go in order. I like it that way. It's easier for me to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
I will also say I really hate one of these on here, too.
Oh, I wonder which one.
I guess we'll find out.
Oh,
I'm sure you don't need to wait to find out.
I think I know. Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's start with The Conjuring.
Yeah.
So I want this, first of all.
Right.
I think not necessarily just the movie The Conjuring, but the universe itself would be a really good fit. I understand that some troubles getting the licensing have been rough in the past, but HHN has definitely gone for this and tried to make it happen and almost made it happen.
Right.
Could this be the year that they finally pull it out? A nice anniversary year, a big horror property, considered one of the best horror properties of modern times. I think it's likely.
I think it's likely. I think it's long overdue. I think if you have to go by the Ifrit's prediction, I think that's probably where it's landing. I don't know if he necessarily knows, if he's just kind of regurgitating rumors.
Should pay too much.
Right.
Give that too much credit. Yeah.
But I think it's definitely likely. I think if it's, we could definitely see it. It's one of those things that's almost happened a lot of times. I think it's possible that would happen this year.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I think, for me, I think out of everything we're going to talk about, this is going to be like on the higher level of likely to, which might be kind of stupid of me to say since they've always had issues getting the property, but
right.
Yeah, that's just how I'm feeling going into this year.
And I don't remember what podcast it was, but I remember listening to a podcast, and basically the reason why it fell through a couple of years that passed is that it was the Conjuring movies were in litigation, apparently, because the person who wrote like a book about the characters of the Conjuring was suing the movies, and then therefore the Universal just basically could not bow out, and they couldn't sell them it, so they just kind of fell through. But I wish I could cite the source who I heard that from. I think it might be Ryan's and Brian's. I don't remember which. I listened to so many Halloween Horror Nights podcasts, which one said that, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, no, it does. So, I mean, if that's all cleared up, then they should finally be able to get it done, right?
Yeah.
So we agree to put that in likely?
Yeah, we'll put that in likely.
Perfect. And then next, we have a retrospective house. Mike, how do you feel about that potential?
I would say this is very likely. If Candyman is very likely, I would say this is going to happen. It happens basically any anniversary year. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a very big anniversary year. I think we're going to see some sort of retrospective house.
Any particular stab you want to take?
What's going to be in there?
Yeah. Like what kind of content would you see?
Well, I think we're going to see all the heavy hitters. I think we're going to see a couple from HHN29. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to maybe see a Yeti scene. I think we maybe see, or maybe a Slaughter Cinema Yeti scene is more likely.
Yeah.
And then maybe a Graveyard Games scene. I know that was one of my hot takes, that we would see Ascension Paris Summersea coming back.
I remember that.
So, and then also I think we might hit some of the things that I think might be in a retrospective house. We put in the list as rumors that might have their own sequel house, but I think we're going to see some of the big stuff coming, right?
Yeah, no, I'd say so. For me, this one's tough to put as maybe or likely because it kind of hinges on, are we going to get sequel houses? Are we going to kind of lean on a retrospective house?
I think we could get both. I think we
can get both. I think it would be tougher to convince me we'd get both versus saying we'd have one or the other kind of deal, you know?
I think we're definitely either going to get a couple of sequel houses that are going to fill up the originals, and we're not going to get a ton of original stuff this year. We're just going to get a couple of maybe three or four sequel houses.
Yeah.
Or we're going to get one big retrospective house and maybe one sequel house.
But see, I kind of break it into two different scales. Like sequel houses for the icon houses or sequel houses for just random originals.
I think there's a lot of clamoring for sequel houses for certain originals.
And that's where I think if we get, I'll put it this way. If we get icon originals, like sequel houses, I think we could also see a retrospective house.
Yes.
If we get just other, say a Graveyard Game sequel this year, which probably won't happen, no. But if that came, I don't think we get a retrospective house of just other original sequels.
Okay. Well,
if that makes sense.
How do we want to categorize this one?
If you want to put it into likely, I'm comfortable with that. I think I lean more towards maybe personally.
I think it's likely. I think we're going to see some sort of retrospective house, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's put it in that.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with likely.
All right. Duff, how about you take the next one?
Ooh. Yes. Scarecrow sequel. First of all, yes, please. I will take that all day. How likely do I think it is that we get it right now? That's tougher than asking me if I want it to come, for sure.
I think it's coming sometime.
I think we'll get it. I mean, it's probably the most popular house of the decade, I'd say, as far as originals go. Yeah, I'm going to say likely. Not only do I want it to come back, I think there's a good chance it does this year.
Yeah, I think it's coming back sometime. whether it's coming back this year or not, I think you kind of already touched on it. I think we see a lot of icons and retrospective kind of like overall talking about I think maybe we don't see a whole house of Scarecrow.
It's also like with all the like you're saying, there's going to be all these different sequels coming back. It's kind of tough to pinpoint exactly which ones it would be at this point.
But this is at the top of the list of when people say we want to see another house come back. This one's probably one or two.
Oh yeah, I mean everyone I've brought that I did bring to HHN27 was like, yeah, that was the fucking scariest thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah,
it was a fantastic house, and it is in everyone's memory. If we could give that a legacy score like we've done in other segments of the show, I think
we might do a Scarecrow.
That's going to be very, very high.
Yeah. All right, and then moving on. Okay, so this one, I think there's a lot of speculation. Not any strong rumors, but I think people are speculating about it.
I don't know why, but
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Isn't the series over?
The series is over. Okay, so let's talk about why we don't think the series is over. At one point, it was the hottest thing since sliced bread, and then over the last 2 seasons, it became a meme of about how terrible it was wrapped up.
Oh yes.
And it's not necessarily a horror genre. I would say it's more fantasy. I think if you had to make a haunted house out of it, you would only have to focus on basically the White Walkers, right?
I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Okay, so I'm a Game of Thrones. There's not a ton of horror stuff to pull from except the White Walkers.
I mean, I've seen quite a bit of the imagery, so I think I know what you're picturing. They have like the kind of spikes on their head.
Yes.
Those people.
It would essentially it would be like a fantasy Yeti house. If you really wanted to do a picture of what this would probably be, it would be kind of if the Yeti house was set into some sort of fantasy. You're walking through like a castle or something. I think that's what this would. If this really didn't happen, I think you would see a lot of like White Walkers and things. Or maybe like Nightingales, where you saw like dying soldiers and things. That's what this would kind of look like.
Well, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I don't think it would be coming this year. I think if it was going to happen,
it's too late.
It would have happened in 2013 or 2014. When Game of Thrones was at this highest of the high.
Yeah, I mean, hell, it could have happened in 2018, even just kind of with the series kind of going out, you know.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's past its expiration date.
Yeah, I don't think this is happening.
And it lost a lot of its lore in its last couple of years.
I think this is one of those things that people want, but I don't think it's necessarily there's really any credence.
How many people actually want it, though? Is there actually a large group of people who want it, or are there just a few loud ones?
There's a few loud ones, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think there's like some large contingent of bring Game of Thrones to HHN fans.
I would say when people speculate of what this is always in there, though.
Yeah, I'm just saying it shouldn't be in there anymore. I think this is not only not likely, it's just not happening.
But it's been in there for a long time, and I think it's just people continue to talk about it. I think the ship has sailed, if so to speak.
Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Like Anna and Elsa's parents, that thing is gone.
Yes. All right, and last in this Carnival Graveyard Scare Zone. So how about you take this one, Duff, because you're the one who told me to put this on here.
Oh, yeah. So I saw this one mentioned, I think just kind of, it was on the forums. I don't remember who or when or whatever. But it was mentioned, and then other people were like, oh, what? That sounds great. And do you know how well that would work as a zone mic?
It would be great.
That would be crazy. Like, I can't believe I never thought of that before.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
So the speculation's very little, I will say. So this might be the furthest thing we have on here from a rumor, except maybe Game of Thrones. But I think the fact that it would work so well kind of makes me want to lean more towards a maybe at the very least.
Okay,
I think the props you could put out in a scare zone for this would just be amazing.
It's really hard to speculate on the zones, and because we don't really get a lot of rumors about the
Especially
zones.
original zones.
And original
That's
zones.
tough.
Yeah, and most of the zones tend to be original. We don't see a lot of. I mean, we see some IP zones here.
I mean,
and there.
you usually get them. I mean, recently, the main zone, the New York zone, has been an IP.
Yeah.
I mean, Zombieland, Purge.
Right. Purge. Yeah.
You know, so it's not uncommon, but those are easier to predict.
Right. Walking Dead.
Especially Purge.
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. Purge
Couldn't
came
get
around.
rid of Purge.
Came and stuck like. All right. So let's.
So
What do we call this?
I say maybe. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Let's put it maybe.
That works. I mean, it's probably not likely, but for personal reasons, I want to move it to maybe to make myself feel like it could come.
Let's go with maybe. I mean,
right,
we
yeah.
definitely, when we're making a prediction map, we don't have a lot of strong scare zone stuff, so let's put it in there.
Yeah, do it.
All right.
Slap it on.
So let's move on to our grouping 3. In this grouping, we have Haunting of Hill House, 13 Ghosts, Treehouse of Horror, Deadwater / Zombie Graz sequel, Gremlins, and Scary Tales.
I don't know if you saw this, but when you said Treehouse of Horror, Nico was looking at his phone and his head shot up so fast.
Did somebody say Treehouse of Horror?
We can bring you in for this one, Nico.
Wow. Well, disappear for a minute. We'll bring you in for Treehouse of Horror. I just want to hear what you say about this.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Duff, Haunting of Hill House. This one has grown legs recently.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You want to hear kind of a hot take for this?
Sure.
Even though it's not a hot take show?
Sure. Go ahead.
This is likely for me.
Uh-huh.
It's my most likely of anything on this list to come to
Oh.
the event.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I have reason to believe the Netflix partnership is not done with HHN, and I think this is the most likely contender. I know there are some other properties people have shot out, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
I think this house is happening. So just don't even put it in likely. Put it in this is happening per Duff.
Duff seems to believe that this is a sure thing.
This is a thing.
Hot take from Duff. He believes that this is happening. I am not as strong, but I'll definitely call it. It's as likely as some of the others we put in likely. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Netflix is definitely the partnership is still strong, like you said.
And this is their horror property.
Right.
Like this is the one that they have.
Yeah, this is
That's
the
a
one.
hit.
Other than Stranger Things, which is going to be on a hiatus for a little bit, this is the one that they're going to, I think, try to put a lot of money into recently, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I am only episode and a half into this, and I am loving the show.
You did start it.
I did start it. Oh yeah,
It's great, isn't it?
It's great. I watch it late at night while my whole family is asleep, and it is terrifying.
It's great.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Can't beat it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Imagine that as a house.
I'm
you probably don't even. You haven't even seen the imagery that would be great in a house
Oh
yet.
yeah.
I don't.
No,
think.
I have not. No, I haven't. I'm about when we're done here. I'm about to go watch maybe another episode and a half.
I might restart it tonight because I kind of don't have anything to watch. I finished up my shows. Go back and watch it again.
So yeah. Anything else? Why do you feel so strongly about this
Well,
that you can disclose?
we've never brought this up, but we kind of got. We say how we don't really have sources, but occasionally we hear things directly told to us. If you remember, there was something directly told to me about Netflix and Horror Nights that leads me to believe that this is going to be the case. So that's all I'll say on that. It's not like something I can completely throw out there. Just I can mention that I have heard, and that's about it.
We're not trying to get anyone in
Yeah,
trouble.
no. So you can take my word whether I've heard this and it's from a legible source or not, but I have heard specifically more on the Netflix end than the Haunting end.
Right.
But,
The Netflix is definitely still in talks with Universal to bring some of their properties.
With a little more detail, but yeah, basically. So we'll stick with that. So I think that's also really pushing me. But I also think it just makes a shit ton of sense.
Right. So yeah, let's put that in likely. What's next, Duff? What do we got here?
13 Ghosts.
If you could only see the face I'm making.
I think this is another kind of why for me.
it all comes from an Easter egg, right? Didn't Hopper's
Yes.
Hopper's cabin have
had a VHS
of
cover
13
of it, or the full VHS. I don't remember, but yes.
So I was a youth once, and I happened to watch this movie. Is this really a thing that people are clamoring for?
Are they actually clamoring for it, or are they just... I think people really like the idea of the Easter eggs being in a house one year and coming to fruition another year, more than they actually want the property.
No, if we had a 13 Ghost remake, or if we had a 13 Ghost TV series or something,
maybe.
I could potentially see this. But this is a movie from the 90s that was terrible then, and no one has been talking about until this rumor came, because there was a VHS tape of an old 13 Ghosts. That's not the one that people think are coming back.
No, because that wouldn't make sense in a house that took place in the 80s.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about some of the houses that have been like come back as IPs that have come back, that were not, just... So we've seen Poltergeist. We've seen The Shining. We've seen American Werewolf in London. We've seen The Exorcist. And then we have 13 Ghosts. Which one of these is not like the other?
Oh, you mean horror classic 13 Ghosts is not on the level of The Shining? Crazy.
I don't think 13 Ghosts was ever in that like box set that they used to sell on late night television.
Oh no.
Again, if we saw like the Candyman, if we had some, I would... If Candyman wasn't coming out of Jordan Peele, I would say this is... I mean, it's a cult classic more than 13 Ghosts, but I would still make that same joke.
Yeah, no,
13 Ghosts has...
if Candyman wasn't getting a remake...
Now, correct me. If someone knows about some sort of 13 Ghost thing that's going on and that's more into horror than me, correct me, let me know, but I'm not aware of it.
I researched it and I didn't see anything. Because the first time I saw... when I saw that last year, there were a few people who mentioned, oh, I wonder. And I looked up, is there any remakes, reboots, anything coming up? No. Not that I found, unless there's some new happening, like new, or if it's super indie film or something. I don't know.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to go out on a limb with this one, and I'm going to call it not likely.
Yeah, that's not likely.
I don't think it's happening. I think it's one of those things that just kind of all came from an Easter egg. And I haven't heard any actual rumors that it's happening. I think people are just kind of speculating about it.
I like how you said sorry, guys. Like anyone's actually upset that we said not likely.
I think there are, from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of people who are making 13 Ghost fan art of this coming to HHN. I'm not making this up. I've seen it. People are hype about the 13 Ghosts.
How many? 2?
Probably. Probably, yeah.
Okay. I don't get it. I don't know if I get this more or less than Game of Thrones, but they're both pretty far down there. At least Game of Thrones was 2 years ago.
Should we add Ghost Ship to the list?
All right, moving on.
All right.
Hey, Nico, wake up.
Wow.
Nico.
What? Sorry, I was haunted by these 13 ghosts that we were talking about. It's like if Disney opened a Mr. Boogedy ride or something,
Ooh.
just because it got popular on Disney Plus.
All right, Nico.
Yes.
This is a rumor has been talked about. I wouldn't even call it a rumor. It's more like speculation.
It's been speculation
for a very long time. Basically, once the Simpsons zone, land,
Springfield, USA.
Springfield, USA, has
Yes.
kind of started to grow. This was speculated that wouldn't it be great if we had a Treehouse of Horror?
Oh, yes,
house?
it would be great. It would be fantastic if we had that. Too bad that's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. Nico has a very strong opinion.
I mean, there's no way. There's absolutely no way, because I don't even think Disney, with the way the contracts are and the way how Disney has a grip over it, I think Disney would have to approve. I know Gracie Films is pretty much in charge and was in charge during the Fox deal, but it was still Fox who licensed it out to Universal. So now Disney's has a handle on licensing for that. There is absolutely no way they're going to have a Halloween Horror Nights house based on one of their properties that they own.
So that's what I was going to ask you as well, because you would know better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know the details of like the theme park rights that Universal has of The Simpsons?
So not necessarily for The Simpsons. We can only go on what was on public record for Marvel Superhero Island. If you notice, Marvel Superhero Island, they were never able to add new attractions, but they were able to like update the attractions that they have. If this is kind of like the same clause, then there is no way Universal is going to allow them. I don't even think they will ever have a presence in any theme park again. I mean, that's just what I see for The Simpsons, unfortunately.
So no Simpsons to Beijing.
No Simpsons to Beijing. No Dapper Dan singing "Baby on Board," no matter how badly I want it. Even though it was the Dapper Dans who sang "Baby on Board," but they couldn't credit them that way for that episode for the B Sharps.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like it was the actual Dapper Dans?
Yeah, it was the actual Dapper Dan. I mean, who else in like Southern California were they going to get to sing Barbershop? It's not like today where you find like 4 white guys doing a barbershop podcast.
You would have to go to Salt Lake City, Utah to find that.
They weren't. I mean, they weren't willing to pay Maggie Roswell to fly down, so there's no way they were going to pay four boys from Utah to do that, or 13 Ghost to sing.
Okay, so let's not move forward. I want to discuss. So let's say Treehouse of Horror is happening. Everyone thinks that it's this would be great.
No.
What would it look like?
No, what exactly?
The characters in the
no.
park
Yeah, exactly.
are all fur.
Have you
They're all
seen
fur
the
characters.
meet and greet characters? What they look like?
Exactly.
Can you imagine that in the house?
I don't understand what it's a cartoon. What would it be like? Would it be 3D? Would it be cartoony?
Exactly.
Would you see? Would it be just a bunch of fur characters?
Can you
in this
imagine a
house?
Kang and Kodo's fur character coming at you?
What would this look
Well,
like?
I mean, they could do that, like as an animatronic or like rubber or something like that.
Here's the thing for me. The Simpsons artistic style is not scary in the slightest.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
How would that work in a house? Because they would not let, if they let this happen, there's no way they'd let them take different artistic interpretations of their characters, right? There's no way.
And also, every Treehouse of Horror episode is almost a parody of something that already exists.
Oh, yeah. So there's probably
it would just
other
be
licensing
layer on top of
issues,
layer
maybe.
on top of layer.
Exactly, like the monkey's paw.
It would have to be, and it would either have, it'd have to be public domain, like The Raven, or something like that, or it'd have to be a Universal film.
Seen already.
Or it'd have to be Universal film, like where they're doing American Graffiti, the Treehouse of Horror, something like that. Which would actually, that would be kind of funny.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
what we're saying is this would be a better year-round walkthrough, or show, or
maybe we see a ride. Maybe we see
something that's not a Horror Nights
an
house.
overlay for the ride. Like
That
there are
would
other,
be-
there
that
are
would be
other
cool.
things
See?
that could happen.
That's what I like. If they did an
I would agree with
overlay,
that.
a Halloween overlay
Mm-hmm.
for Treehouse of Horror over a, to put it nicely, a not so great attraction in its current state.
that we could see.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
I mean, that is definitely plausible. I just don't think that. I'm pretty sure it's Disney who figures out who gets those rights, and not Gracie Films. So, like, Jim Brooks doesn't say him like I know him. Brooks doesn't have actually the licensing rights. Like they are, like him and Groening are the ones who pretty much make all the money off of it, along with Disney. But it was Fox/Disney who was always feeding The Simpsons to something, especially like theme park rights. And there is no way Disney's ever going to let them do that.
Okay.
I do not see it happening.
I mean, I didn't see it happening anyways, but that pretty much sounds like that would shut it down completely.
I mean, in the closest thing I could ever see with Disney would be letting them use the Alien franchise for a house someday. I don't know if they ever have used the Alien franchise.
No.
But now that Disney, kind of owns that.
Well, yes, they have.
Like, was it an AVP?
It was AVP.
Okay, so
yeah,
AVP,
yeah.
which is still, well, that's
was
both.
gonna- yeah.
I mean, that's both
Yeah.
Fox there.
You said just Alien. My head was thinking just Alien.
Sorry, yeah.
I forget, the A in AVP.
The A.
That is the thing that happened.
So, I really don't see this happening. As much as I would love to have, like, a Treehouse of Horror overlay, which would be fantastic, because it could just be, Back to the Future with the Simpsons characters. That would be fantastic. But there.
Yeah, I think we kind of all agree that this is not very likely. I think this is a pipe dream type of thing.
At best.
I think people really like to think about it, but then they're not quite thinking about what it would look like. And I think that when you start
very blue sky.
trying to figure out what it looks like, that's when I think the wheels fall off this pipe dream.
Yeah, not likely for me.
And not even getting into the Nico's the whole Disney thing. Say they got the rights. What does it look like? I don't think
that on its own is enough.
Very hard to execute.
Yeah.
Nico, thank you for piping in. We're going to use this as a quick little promotion for Nico. If you want to hear more nerdy theme park talk, he has a podcast, Kingdoms and Coasters. You want to plug
Kingdoms
everything?
and Coasters. Yeah. So Kingdoms and Coasters is a podcast that I run. Falling off the wagon a little bit there. It's been a little bit of a stressful time, personal life here with me and the girl. We are a theme park podcast that is focused on the fan of theme parks and like roller coasters. Not so much people getting on and being like, oh, Tomorrowland side Matterhorn's so much better than a Fantasyland side Matterhorn, or what other pedantic arguments that other podcasts throw out there for theme parks. So I try to make it as open as possible, and I try to do face-to-face interviews more than often than not. But and then you might be hearing me here and there a lot. So you can follow me on Twitter at Kingdom Coaster @Kingdom Coaster.
And I believe your most recent episode is actually an interview with Duff.
Me.
It is one with Duff, and there is one coming out
shortly
sometime with Mike.
There is one in the can with me. If we need to record it, we can.
No, I think it's good. No,
I was
good
all
there.
over the place, I'll admit.
No, it's good. I mean, that's what that podcast is for. It's really just showing people's passion because, there's if you go on Twitter, there's a lot of, hatred towards a lot of people on there. So I try to use my podcast as a way to, kind of bring people together and show people behind them that, we're all kind of similar. Even though we have all these different backgrounds, we all love themed entertainment. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why we, ate at so many restaurants in the 90s, because we all love themed entertainment.
Man, I love me some medieval times.
Oh, yeah, medieval
times. Yeah, that's
times.
why Planet Hollywood is doing so well.
It did well in the 90s. It doesn't do well now. And Hard Rock, I mean, don't you want to eat next to the guitar from, insert band here?
Yeah.
It's just... I was trying to think of something obscure.
The guitar
Couldn't think
from Manowar.
Oh,
you can eat next to the amp from Manowar.
I was going to say Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel.
I mean, they probably have a bunch of Huey Lewis and the News stuff there, to
They
be
probably
honest.
do, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
They actually might not. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Herman's
go there
Hermits?
often.
Herman's Hermit? Yeah,
Yeah.
they could have that. Yeah.
That's an HHN Herman's Hermits. There was that. Did you know that Herman Hermits
No,
were
what?
actually in the very first Fright Nights?
You're kidding
They
me.
did. Herman's Hermits performed at the very first.
Oh
Fright
my
Nights.
goodness! What did they just play Henry VIII over and over again?
No, I think they just had just a whole concert. And,
that is not what I thought would be. I guess because they're HH, that could make sense.
It happened. Well, this was before it was called
Fright Nights at that point.
At the time.
Oh, Fright Nights. Okay.
All right, let's keep moving. This next one, Deadwater / Zombie Gras sequel. So this one is kind of coming from how popular this Mardi Gras tribute store is coming. People are really liking it, and now there's a little bit of rumblings that maybe we start to see another Deadwater's Zombie Gras sequel coming out. What do you think, Duff?
I mean, it wouldn't be new for them to go back to a Bayou Voodoo style house scare zone, and they've worked well in the past. I still think Deadwater, it had one of the most amazing facades and some of the best set work I've ever seen. I think the Voodoo Queen storyline was always really good. How likely is it to come back, though? I don't know. In an anniversary year, that's a theme that they go to a lot.
It is.
And anniversary years, if it's not a direct sequel, they at least like to keep with similar themes. It's possible, man. I don't know if I'm ready to put it unlikely, but at a high maybe. a mid maybe somewhere in there.
I honestly think it's kind of likely for the fact that I think the Universal Creative is still coming up with setting everything into stone, and I think that if they see how popular this tribute store is, I think wheels could start turning, and we could potentially see another Dead Waters or Zombie Gras type style thing coming in this year. It's possible.
Oh yeah, I definitely think it's possible. It's just one of those things when you're talking about like sequels or things that are just heavily related to past houses, it's tough to pick which ones are going to come during an anniversary year. It's really hard to pick which ones.
But this one is right in their minds, is what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, no, it's true. I mean, we're looking at it right now. If you go to
we
the
are
park,
seeing it. Yeah.
I mean, that tribute store looks like it could be a house.
You could. And it's amazing from what I hear.
Oh, yeah, you haven't been yet.
I have not been yet.
It
No.
is. In person, it is something else, man. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to have it again. And I see where you're coming from. It's kind of there right now.
Let's put it in the maybe.
Okay, that works, yeah.
It's a maybe. I wouldn't say it's as likely. There's no rumors about it like some of the others. I think people are just speculating about like, whoa, like it's in people's minds again that this is a type of thing that Halloween Horror Nights does really, really well. Even if it's not Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
They're really good
they
at
know how to
making
do it.
creepy bayou type things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think maybe it's fair.
Yeah. All right. What's the next one, Duff?
Gremlins, which, interesting, I think. I don't know that it would work too well as a house, I'll be honest. And I really like Gremlins. I'm a Gremlins fan. I think the scares would be a little too repetitive. I don't know how much variety you could get in a Gremlins house. But that's also not new to them. I mean, if you like every Halloween house ever, Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, hell, the Trick or Treat house, it's a lot of repetitive
Killer
scares.
Clowns.
Yeah, because you don't have too much content to work off of. So while I'm saying that's a reason not to have it, it hasn't stopped them in the past.
Right.
One thing I could say, I think it's maybe missed its mark. I think we're kind of moving out of the 80s themed years.
Yeah.
And that's when it would have fell in better.
Yeah. I think an HHN 28 or 29 would have been great.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to fit in. Definitely the fact that we're going to an anniversary year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we maybe see it further down the line. I don't know how it's one of those things. I don't know how it necessarily. It works better than Treehouse of Horror, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I can't necessarily envision what it looks like in like some of these others.
I'm not saying it can't be done. I think they could pull it off.
Yeah.
It's, like you said, hard to envision how it would be done, though.
Right. I'm going to call it, in my opinion, kind of one of those pipe dream not likelies.
Yeah, I say, yeah, it's a pipe dream.
I
think it would be cool, and I'd be happy if the property came, because I'd want to see what they can do with it. I just don't think it's happening. At least now. Maybe in the future.
Yeah, I don't think it's really happening either. And then lastly, we have a Scary Tale sequel. Again, this is one of those they go to a lot. People really, really love this property. Yeah. They do it always pretty well.
People love the last incarnation of Scary Tales too.
Yeah.
So
I think it's coming. I don't know if it's coming this year, but if it's gonna happen, I could.
Oh yeah,
I could definitely see this happening. Of all we're going to see a lot of like, okay, going back to some of the things we're going to see Scary Tales back.
We have definitely not seen our last Scary Tales. However, I think this would fit best and more likely be done as part of a retrospective house. Personally,
does it count if it does?
I think so, because it's not saying Scary Tales sequel house. It's just kind of Scary Tales will be there, kind of is the rumor.
Then it's very likely.
I think in a retrospective house, it's in the likely side. As a direct like sequel house, like a low maybe for me.
Yeah, I put it in likely. I think it's. I mean, again, we're kind of shooting. We have no clue what which originals they try to pull from. It's just all kind of a crapshoot. But this is definitely, if you had to pick 5 or 10 that we could potentially see this is high up there. This is one of those that
Yeah.
they use a lot.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
It's not some random thing that we saw once and, it was not really much of a hit. We've seen Scary Tales a lot because it's popular.
Yeah, like you said, it's tough to tell, but it's one of the really popular originals that they keep bringing back, so it's probably on the higher possibility that it'll come back. And that wraps up Group 3. So we're halfway through. All right, guys.
This is going to be a long show.
That's how I like it.
Yeah, well.
Let's keep talking.
Yeah. So Group 4 has Billie Eilish, Body Collectors, It, some sort of Music Zone, and The Walking Dead.
Ew. But all right, yeah, let's go to the top.
So, Duff, I know we've talked for 25 minutes just on this one topic.
So we don't need to go into detail about it. Just kind of give me
how likely do we actually think it? The more I think it, I think this might just. I don't know how likely it is. The only reason why it seems likely is because there's some people who have had track records in the past saying this is happening, but if it was not that, we would think this was the most crazy rumor ever.
When it was dropped as a rumor before he went into detail about it, I thought what? No way. I thought it was the red herring.
Yeah, I'm still gonna call this not likely.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Here. I think maybe Legacy just has some bad info on this one.
For the property itself, I'd say not likely. But I truly believe him on this one because he has a pretty good track record. And he usually is willing to admit, this one's kind of might not happen. But this one, he's like, I really think this one's happening, guys. It's coming. Sorry.
I can see why Universal might try to do this. But again, it's just so out there.
Oh, it's out there. I agree. There. But it wouldn't be the first time they've gone out there.
Yeah.
I think as a house, that's crazy out there.
So what are you? I'm calling this not likely. What are you calling this likely?
I'm calling it likely. So just off me trusting the rumor.
So what do we do? Do we flip a coin, or I think you're probably stronger on the likely than I am on the not likely. I'm hesitant not likely.
We'll figure out exactly how we'll do it once we get to the speculation map and whether it makes it on there or not.
Okay.
How about that?
So let's.
Otherwise, we don't really need to put it into a certain group at the moment. It could be kind of split.
Okay.
That's fine. Because, we're very far apart on it.
Let's put it maybe. Let's split the difference.
Split the difference? Okay. That works.
Right down the middle.
Let's put it, All right. And then, what's our next one?
Body Collectors. So this is kind of going into the houses that get used, especially during anniversary years.
Very popular.
Now, Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's likely. Do you know why I think specifically this year it would be likely?
I don't know.
Who is supposedly returning this year, Mike?
Yes.
If the prophecy is correct.
Yes. The Terror Queen, which was the very first year we saw Body Collectors.
Yeah. So they tie into her story.
Right.
If she's returning, which I think she is, I definitely could see a Body Collector's house, or at the very least part of an Icon House retrospective kind of deal.
Yes. I think this is, again, it's kind of a crapshoot, but I think it's probably likely.
Yeah.
And we really don't know. There's not any strong rumors about it, but
I think as far as
based all on speculation.
As far as originals go, I think this might be the most likely that we're going to talk about, in my opinion, today.
You think it's definitely happening? HHN30 Body Collectors.
I'm not as gung-ho as I am about Haunting of Hill House, but as far as originals go and kind of taking shots into the dark, I think the tie-in with Terror Queen, you have to. If Terror Queen comes back, you have to bring back Body Collectors, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Wait, you're going to bring back the fire pits? Is that what you're going to bring back instead?
Let's bring back fire pits.
Where they just have giant fire pits.
Can we bring back Rat Lady while we're at it?
She might be on here. Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So then next we have It.
Another one riddled with licensing issues, huh?
Yes. So I think if this was coming anytime to HHN, I think it would be very, very likely.
Oh, this is where you strike.
I think
This is where you strike for this property.
yeah.
And with what was it called? Horror Made Here, not officially not operating anymore.
Right.
Would they license it out now finally?
The only, and I believe this was one of my hot takes, the only thing holding it back is that if we do see the icons back with Jack, I don't know if we see Pennywise. They're too similar.
That's true.
Too similar.
You don't want to take away
think
from
maybe
Jack.
maybe you save it for later. I think it could definitely carry a year and be the makeshift icon. Maybe we save it for 31 or 32.
Yeah, I mean, for it, while it's hot right now because of it 1 and 2 recently coming out.
Right.
This isn't a property where you have to strike when it's hot. This is a lasting.
No, this is lasting
property that everyone knows, everyone loves. As far as horror goes, it's top 3. I'd say.
Always going to be popular with the angsty 11-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
Like it is always going to be one of those jumping into horror type of the very first horror movie that a teen or a kid watches. It could be probably it. So it's always going to be popular.
Yeah, I mean, I like where you're coming from. That's why I kind of lean towards not likely as well.
I don't think it's going to come this year.
I think it's coming. It will come, just
now,
not this year.
If we don't see the icons, and if we get a year like we got last year, where it was so IP heavy, where we got Stranger Things on the poster and we got Ghostbusters on the poster.
Oh, I could see it.
I think Pennywise will be on that top of the poster, and we could see it happening. If it wasn't an anniversary year, then I would say it is more likely than anything else. I would be very strong to seeing this happen.
I just don't see the HHN team not bringing icons back. So for that reason, sorry, you're out for this year.
Not this year, but who knows? It could happen.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility, but I put it in not likely personally.
It's definitely a strong IP. I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see it at HHN within the next 5 years.
Are you not likely for this year, or are you maybe for this year?
I'm a maybe for this year.
Okay,
but a maybe with a not likely, just because I think we see Jack back.
So should we put it in not likely? Because I'm not likely, I think, for it this year.
Yeah, let's put it not likely.
All right, next house is kind of multiple rumors. Well, speculation, not rumors, in one. And that's just a music scare zone.
Yeah.
Kind of going off like Hellbilly Deluxe last year. There's just a bunch of people throwing out basically every metal band you could
right.
possibly name.
Yeah.
As a zone, and
including Billie Eilish.
I don't have to discuss it.
What
much.
about Rumpelstiltskin Grinder? Are they gonna be having a music scare zone there?
But like, where do you draw the line? Like, they're talking about Black Sabbath. I've heard people say like Van Halen, which weird. But like, where do we draw the line? Are we gonna have like a warrant like scare zone, like cherry pie?
I don't know.
Like the whole thing just smells like cherry pie, and
that actually might not be a bad thing. If they're
warrant
trying to go
scare zone.
No, if they're trying to go like 80s hair metal, like try to do like scary hair metal, especially if
what is scary about warrant?
No, but I'm just saying, like, with something like that, especially with something y'all might say later with a certain duo, there very well could be a hair metal, heavy metal scare zone this year to fit in with maybe something like that.
I see where you're going with it. I just don't think the hair metal is where they'd lean. I think they'd lean more towards, like I said earlier, Black Sabbath.
I think hair metal fits in a lot better with a certain theme with two dudes. So that's just what
I see where you're coming from.
That's where I'm saying.
When we get there, we can bring that aspect up, though.
Yeah. How do we categorize this?
I think it's not low.
I don't think it's going to happen this year.
No,
I don't think they're going to dip into this well so quickly again. I think we'll see another music zone, but I don't think it's coming in HHN30.
No.
Again, I mean, one of my hot takes was that the Black Sabbath Ozzy. I think if it happens, I think Black Sabbath and Ozzy is probably the front runner for it happening. We've seen Black Sabbath at HHN before.
Yeah.
And I think if they're gonna, strike on Ozzy, I think now is a good time. But I don't know if it's happening.
It's not likely for me.
Okay, so let's put it in not likely.
Works for me, obviously.
If Ozzy does come back, you can still use those Post Malone memes.
Can you imagine Post Malone making an appearance in that zone?
Oh, that'd be great. And then Travis Scott joins him, and then it'd be really good.
I have to admit, I did not like Post Malone until I found out that he is now a Utah resident.
And now you're a big fan.
I just love the idea of Post Malone like walking down the streets of Sandy, Utah. my old stomping ground, Post Malone with his face tattoos, just walking around.
I'm pretty sure.
He goes to Lagoon. He has a season pass.
Oh, definitely,
big, right?
definitely, yeah. I mean, yes, there's definitely
face tattoos aren't like uncommon.
You don't see them very often.
But there's a large contingent of the population who's very against that, I assume.
Yeah, you don't see face tattoos very often, and you don't see them.
No, man, he'll stand out.
Yeah. All right, let's keep trucking.
Do we have to wrap up this group, or can we just move on? Because I don't want to talk about this next one.
I think it's more likely than you think. It's an anniversary year. I think if you talk about the last 10 years, The Walking Dead is probably the number one thing that has had such an impact on this event than any other thing.
Yeah, for the worse.
Yeah, but if we get a retrospective type of thing, we're gonna see The Walking Dead come back. 100%.
You think we'll see a retrospective of IPs?
I think if we see some sort of like, this is what the
100%.
event's like been for the last 10 years. These are the things. We're going to see Walking Dead. There's no way to not talk about the event for the last 10 years without addressing the elephant of the room. And that's what we got, 5 years of a Walking Dead house in a row.
So I think the Horror Nights team is well aware that people were very excited to see Walking Dead go. And it was well past its expiration date at Horror Nights. The Walking Dead as a franchise currently isn't very relevant.
Still on the show. It's still airing. Yeah. It's still airing, and more relevant than 13 Ghosts.
Well, we didn't speak highly of that either. So, anyways, I think an anniversary house is going to be used to
originals potentially.
Well, yeah, originals, but not just that. I think it's to go back to the best of past years. And like I said, the HHN team is well aware that that's not their best at all to anybody, even the general public.
I just
like you destroyed Horror Nights for multiple years just because you forced Walking Dead everywhere. Well, I mean, there was literally 1 year where it was just Walking. It was like the Walking Dead Horror Nights edition.
I'm definitely not a big fan of the Walking Dead, but if you're going to talk about the history of HHN. And especially if they focus on the last 10 years or so, which I believe they probably will, how do you not address The Walking Dead? How do you not feature it in any sort of way?
I think it's easy. You just don't.
You just pretend like it
well, you're not pretending it didn't happen. You don't have to include everything or everything big you've done in an anniversary year. Like, you can make some terrible houses that were off big IPs. It doesn't mean you have to, like, well, we did it, so now we got to bring it back.
They did it 5 years in a row.
Yeah, but that was more contractual at that point and how big it was at the time. It was a mix of those two aspects.
When was the last year? 2017 was the last year?
2016 was the last year, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, Duff. I'm not going to put it as likely, but I would call this a maybe.
Man, I don't.
I know you don't want it to happen.
No, I don't think it's happening. I don't think there's any way that they think it's a good idea to honor The Walking Dead in an anniversary year.
I don't watch The Walking Dead, but people are saying that Walking Dead is good again, apparently.
Yeah, but it still doesn't have the hype it did. I mean, it could be good. It doesn't mean people want it.
All right, I added it out likely. Let's keep on trucking because we're going to have a 4-hour show here soon. So before we get to our next group, Duff, I think this is actually running a little bit long. I think we should actually maybe have this. We try to keep them about an hour and 15 minutes. We should probably maybe make this a two-parter so we see some of this coming on next week's show. So let's quickly wrap up this week. We've gone over a lot. You're going to see some more next week, and then also go over our speculation map. And then next week we also have our last round of trivia. So that's what's coming up next. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the updated sound quality. And we'll see you in the streets.